Hey, Dad.
Hey, honey.
What's going on?
Well, I know we're doing a podcast and it's we're out of sorts, but um, vocally, everything should be okay. Visually, apologies because we're traveling. And I
Yeah,
think I just saw a bug fly by in the back of your
I
thing.
think I saw that too. It looked like maybe it was like some dust that just went by.
It was
Um,
flying dust.
so before we get into it, Dad, just I wanted to sit and we're on episode 25.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's we didn't quit. That's good.
we're still going.
Yeah.
The little engine that could.
Eh, what? No.
No, I mean I feel like that's like an accomplishment. Like 25, like that's a quarter of a century.
Mm-hmm. Or 25 episodes.
Yeah. So you're in Oklahoma.
Yeah, I'm been here for coming this Saturday, it'll be 2 weeks.
Wow.
Been with Jordan. It's been good. I'm ready to be home.
Mhm.
Um, miss that environment. Uh, yeah, but you and I were talking earlier. It's been a strange time.
Yeah, I feel like are pretty intense. The last few weeks, I feel like I'm going through some, everyone's going through stuff. I mean, if you're breathing, you're going through stuff. And that's
So
all,
true.
all over the map. But it does seem like things that have, especially the last couple of weeks, have been pretty intense just in the conversations and life changes and revelations that myself, you, and friends and stuff are having. So
Yeah,
yeah. So That's that's how it goes.
yeah. No, it's true. Um,
Well, let's just jump into it. We were talking earlier, and something that we're seeing in a theme that is in coming up for both of us is just the importance of the little things, right?
hmm
So it's the little things that matter, and that could be in regards to yourself and how you relate to yourself, and then that could be externally with people,
yeah,
relationships, friendships, romantic partnerships, all of that stuff, but it's about the little things. So maybe well, so Dad, how about you just tell me what that means to you? Like, why did that come up for you? How are you experiencing it in your day-to-day life?
yeah. I was sitting in my. I'm trying to create a rhythm in my life of silence and solitude as I start my day, just to center and to listen and to just be. And it sounds weird to some people, but it's I'm working at creating less chaos in my life, which is a challenge because I create a lot of my own chaos. So I was sitting there this morning and I was just thinking about it. It's the little things in relationships that make it one of the biggest things we can have. It's really important, and we always sort of go, "Well, we got to have relationships. That's really important." And then we try all this stuff to make those relationships happen, like big ones, like disconnect from all your electronics, blah blah blah, whatever. And really, it's all the little things that add up to make it a big thing. And so,
To make what are you saying? Like to make the relationship the big thing,
yeah,
or what?
intimacy, relationships up, down, and sideways, relationships with God,
Mhm.
or if you don't believe in God, whatever, your higher power, whatever it is. But for me, it's a relationship with God. And the way I believe is God wants to have a relationship with us.
Mhm.
But like any relationship, it takes intentionality and it takes focus and it takes um, making it a priority.
Mhm.
So for me, it's been, I was talking to my cousin, whom I love dearly. We grew up together, Claire, and her and Ruth, her sister, um, are having to make some decisions around Aunt Vesta, their mother, my aunt, about going to a nursing home now. And Aunt Vesta wanted to talk to me. I'm the oldest, and as I've said, I was the favorite. No arrogance there, just honest truth. Yeah. I'm the oldest of the group of 10 cousins. I'm kidding. I'm not the favorite. But anyway, Aunt Vesta's known me longer than anybody else on the planet, bar none. She's known me since I was born, and she's 92.
Wow.
So,
92.
yeah, yeah.
Aw.
So she's sharp as a tack. She's starting to slow down and has slowed down, and now is struggling to be able to take care of herself in a safe way. And so she wanted to talk to me about this decision to go in a nursing home.
Yeah.
And it was not the fact that I had any advice for her. I mean, what kind of advice can I give her? You know?
Yeah.
But it was that the little thing was she just wanted to be comforted by hearing my voice, I think, and me approving of her decision.
Yeah.
Well, and the truth of that matter was is she had called me 3 times that day, and I was busy, so I'd let it go to voicemail. She called, Lori, my wife, and was saying, "Jay said to call him, he isn't calling me." And it was concerning her, so a little later on, I did call, and that's all she needed.
I mean, for you, like, was it you just weren't able to answer the phone or
Well, let's be
y
honest, and I know Claire will probably be listening. She's behind, so I can get away with this, on the podcast. I just didn't feel like I wanted to talk at the moment. I was doing something else I thought was more important. Um, I looked at the phone the call coming in and went, "Yeah, I need to get that, but I'm just not ready to do it right now." Really, some of that was legitimate. Some of it was just me being not wanting to answer the call and being self-centered a little.
Mhm.
The little thing is you try to go, okay, what needs to happen right now? Do I need to stop what I'm doing to answer this call? Is it urgent? I need to deal with it now, or is it important and I can put it off? What needs to happen here?
Mhm.
And I'm not saying any of that's right or wrong or good or bad. I'm just saying is it was important for my aunt to hear my voice. And
Yeah.
it was about her, not about me in that moment.
So is that another thing that's coming up is, like, when you think of, like, the little things and how they matter, like,
Yeah, like
does that
everyday gestures, right? Um,
well, let me finish asking that question.
okay, ask
Like,
it again.
well, so I can't remember. It was something about so in regards to little things, like, you're kinda highlighting, like, the self-centeredness or the selfishness, so how does that, like did all of this experience with your aunt just make you think of the importance of putting your own self on hold to be able to be with someone else? I don't know, you know?
Well, yeah, so let me ask you a question then. This past week, we were talking earlier, I don't know if it'll make it on this recording or not, but we were talking about the chaos that seems to be everywhere, from our country to what's going on in the politics, the presidential stuff, whatever. Just, click on Yahoo News and look at what's going on in the world. And so I was thinking about all of that. And as you think about, I'll ask you this, Hillary, as you think about this past week, just this past week, what has been the most important events or circumstances to you that have affected you in a positive way?
I would say, yeah, despite everything and the chaos and just where I'm at, it was the times I was connecting with one with God and had some revelation there, and then two just with other people. It was mom's birthday, so I surprised her and came home just because I'm house sitting right now. So I surprised her and we just hung out. We didn't do anything special or you know crazy. We just spent time together, and that to me is was important, amidst all the stuff trying to figure out work and finances in my business. Like I can get so caught up in that stuff. And then I had just some really beautiful encounters with strangers who, after the encounter it didn't seem like they were really strangers. And to me that's important.
Well, yeah.
So
Yeah.
it seems like the theme though is that like it's not about who I'm connecting with, on my social media, you know. It's sometimes I use this device. I mean, I've had some really good conversations with a couple friends, on there. And then it's just also, being present to here and right now, in my day to day. And yeah, I don't know if that answers the question, but
Well, the point, and I did not solicit you for that response, did I?
no.
I didn't go, hey, we're going to talk about relationships, say some positive things about relationships this week. No, that just came out of when the question was asked, what were the most important things this week in your life? Almost all of it was relational.
Yeah, I think life it's all about the relationships, you know.
You and I both have friends that are extreme introverts.
Right.
Jordan, my son, your brother, is not an extreme introvert, but he's kind of an introvert. You wouldn't know it
Right.
by meeting him, but he is. He's an internal processor. He he can give the impression that he's like you and me, but he isn't. Interacting relationally like you and I do wears him out.
Yeah.
But if you talk to Jordan, which we will sometime, he would say that he is very much needs relationships in his life. He's single. He lives alone. Well, he has a roommate, but he spends a lot of time in his job by himself. And so he has to make himself go out and be around people.
Yeah.
So we're not saying that we're right and you should do it like we're doing. I'm just saying that wherever you are on that spectrum of extroversion or introversion or whatever personality, we all need relationships in our lives. Everybody needs it. People were not meant to be alone.
Yeah. So if that's something that you value, and that you find important, then what does that look like day to day to you? Because it seems like you do it a lot. Like I think you have a even bigger bandwidth than I do in terms of peopling. But like, how do you balance that,
Yeah.
with the peopling and the relational stuff, and then having, like you said, like you've been practicing solitude and all that stuff. Like, what's that like day to day? Like today, like what are you doing today to like? How does your life reflect the importance of valuing relationships?
Well, I can list a few of them. I want to go back to one, but we talked about just everyday gestures. It doesn't take anything. Well, that's not totally true. It takes very little to just be kind to somebody.
Mhm.
Stop thinking about yourself and think about somebody else. And somebody's going to go, don't tell me what to do. Okay, don't do it. How's that working for you? But you know what I mean? Being kind
Well,
is a decision and a choice.
yeah.
And I'm talking to me, y'all. I'm not talking to anybody else. It's me.
Well, so I mean, yeah, we can. It's easy to be kind to kind people.
Yeah.
What
Well,
about?
you know what Jesus said? How about try this out, Ace? Um, Spontaneously love your enemies.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Buckwheat. It's like he
Yeah,
was
so
what?
so what is that like for you, though?
Okay, well,
I
so
mean, are you not as kind as
I'm
you think or what?
yeah, I'm not. I know I'm not. You know me. Drive with me.
Mhm.
And I'm just being honest here. I talk about following Jesus and loving people and all that. And Jesus is going, you can't just say that. You got to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I
And
think
it's,
that's
it's,
conversations you and I've been having for years now is like, why do you gotta tell me all about your faith? Why don't you show me, you
well, it's
know?
dang hard to do it because we want what we want. We are self-centered. No, let me say that again. Ellie told me this. You're Ellie, the one in Seattle. You say you a lot. No, I am self-centered. I am selfish. I want what I want. And I think everybody ought to give me what I want. Jim Gaffigan goes, I go to the gym and I look at myself and I read Self magazine and I talk about myself. And it's a hilarious bit. If you haven't seen it, check it out on YouTube. But he's right. It's all about us. And just think there has to be a new strategy in life if we're ever going to get beyond where we are. So I chased a rabbit, but what I was trying to say is everyday gestures. This is one I'm really working on, and somebody actually said they could tell. In fact, Jordan said he could tell. How about just listening to somebody without having a response or needing to answer them or needing to fix them, but just listening and being present? Aunt
Mhm.
Vesta just needed me to be on the phone with her and listen to her.
Mhm.
I did a decent job, but I was still trying to fix her situation. How do you feel about going over there? Are you going to be okay with being in a nursing home? And in the back of my head, I'm going, she's going to the same nursing home that my mother was in. And I'm going, that isn't really a place I'd necessarily want to go spend the last years of my life. But being present and actually listening, and I could hear the little bit of angst in her voice, like she's
Mhm.
saying all the right stuff, but I could hear the tentativeness. She's giving up freedom and her mobility and all that. Another thing would be shared moments. Like you and I and mom and Jordan and I, while I've been here for this 2 weeks, haven't done a lot. What are you laughing at?
Nothing. I was actually thinking of all of us dancing.
Oh yeah, just those shared moments. Creating rituals.
Mhm.
When we did that for years, we did the Christmas dance. Stupid, nuts.
Mhm.
But it was fun, and not only did we like it, everybody else liked it. How about
We need to bring those back.
Um, yeah, we were just dancing in case you're listening to Spotify. Another one would be words of affirmation. You can bless or you can curse.
Yeah. Power of the word, power of the
Right.
tongue.
Bo talks about that a lot. You can bless or you can curse. What you say does matter. You don't have
Mhm.
to go to seed on it and lie. And if you feel bad, you don't need to lie and say everything's great and there's unicorns and soft serve ice cream. But you do need to be affirming with people, validating. That's part of my life customary or my rule of life, among other parts of it, is affirm, validate, encourage, challenge, and support whoever comes across my path.
Mhm.
It'd be just as easy to curse people, I mean, um,
Yeah. Yeah.
ask people to tell their stories.
Yeah.
That old man you met on as you were rucking,
Yeah.
he told his story.
Yeah. So
How
sweet.
many times does that happen? I talked to somebody, and you have to be careful with this when I get it. I'm an old man. I'm going to be 69. So, yes, you have to be careful. But I asked a young woman, I said, who has told you that you're beautiful today? And she said, no one. No one in her whole life.
Ever?
Well, no, just today, even.
Mm.
Nobody's told her she's beautiful. I talked to somebody in another state who was getting sexually harassed at their work. And she's going, did I do something wrong? No. absolutely nothing wrong. In fact, validating her and saying, she goes, I probably need to say something. Yeah, you do, because this person will keep doing that if you don't challenge them. But listening to their stories.
Yeah, I think storytelling is a big one. I think that's something for me, just as a writer and someone who you and I both like, movies and stuff like that. But there's something about, again, pulling. I can watch, we can watch good movies all day, but actually like setting all that down and being face to face. Like I was listening to someone talk about this and about, you know, just from an evolutionary perspective, like we have been telling stories around a fire forever.
Was that Tyler
I'm not sure, Tyler
Staten?
Staton. I'm not sure where I heard was listening to it, but there is something that happens when especially around a fire, like what just a fire does to your brain,
Or
uh,
meals, even
or what.
meals.
Yeah, yeah. But just the concept of a fire, not even the concept, like an actual fire, and
Hmm.
what that does to our brains and our prefrontal cortex, like it sparks something.
No
Um,
pun intended.
I don't know. But and then that it shapes, when you shape that and then stories, it tells about who we are. It gives us identity. It gives us roots, but that's something I was thinking about building my rhythm, my rule of
Hmm.
life. And I was writing stuff. And like for me, it's like one of those like things I need is like I need the elements. I need fire, I need water. Like I want that to be a part of my rhythm.
Interestingly, what you just said, Hillary, is fire and water are symbolic of the Holy Spirit in Christianity.
Mhm.
They're
Yeah.
they're indicators of cleansing and refinement. The refiner's fire, that was an ancient
Yeah.
blacksmiths in a town, or silversmiths or swordsmiths would refine the metals with intense heat.
Right.
But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
so you're right. I mean, I think another one I was just thinking about is, instead of making grand gestures, going, everybody feeling guilty now and running out and going, here, let me validate you, blah, 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 or let me approve of you, encourage you. Instead of those grand gestures, just being consistent on a daily basis to be kind, to be present, to be mindful. Um,
Well, I think something that I see and I witnessed myself too is it's because of our social media context. A lot of times now it's like there's this not ulterior motive, but like it's like everyone wants to capture everything, the good stuff, the bad stuff on our phones. And when, that's something I've been practicing the last month or so is putting this thing down or keeping it plugged in my room and it's very hard for me. Like I am seeing just how deep the addiction is to my phone and um setting that down though and having these moments without my phone and having moments of connection and kindness and sweetness like that this moment doesn't need to be captured. This doesn't need to be, you know, it doesn't need to go viral, like, for it to matter. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, that
r-
moment, like, I don't have
yeah,
to tell everybody about this particular event that happened, you know what I mean? For it to still, like, mean something and, like, change me at my core, like,
yeah.
right now, a big theme for me is boundaries, you know, physical boundaries,
Mhm.
emotional, spiritual. I'm learning it in every context with you and mom, with friendships, at church, all of that stuff. But like, there are these moments that I can have and with God that I don't have to share with anybody, that I can keep them between just God and I.
Or you
And
shouldn't share even.
right, and I think it's easy for me, like, I get excited about things, so I want to share, and I think I'm learning, like, to keep my mouth shut and just have these moments, like, whether it's between God and I or a stranger or whatever, like, I don't have to like make a tally of all the things that, are
Yeah.
really great and really bad. Like I can just go about my day and, you know, again, I don't have to showcase it. It's which I feel like that's in the Bible too. It talks
Yeah.
about
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
what is it? It's like you do everything out in public and
yeah,
then the
the
Pharisees.
religious people were going, "Look at me, I'm fasting. Look at me, I'm giving to the poor." And Jesus said, "You're a hypocrite.
Mhm.
Do that stuff in secret."
Mhm.
I was thinking about when you were talking about that, about capturing everything, is how many photographs do you have on your phone?
Too many. I'm trying to get them on my freaking hard drive onto my hard
Yeah,
drive. I
but
have
it's
like
like
7
1,000, right?
it's like 17,000, yeah.
Yeah. So what if we put our cameras down? Barack Obama, I've quoted him before, and whether you like him or not, he said when he was leaving office, put your phone down, get off of Facebook or whatever platform you're on, and go sit in a coffee shop and have a conversation with somebody. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but it was
Mhm.
put your phone down and go talk to somebody. And that's so right on. And I
Well, have you seen that they're doing a lot of, like, pop-up cafes and shops or days where it's unplugged and they turn the Wi-Fi off, and so when you go into the restaurant or the cafe, it's literally, like, no phones. Like, you are there to connect.
Yeah,
You're there
I haven't
to,
seen that.
it's really beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, so those are things. I mean, just being consistent with it over time. I mean, I like, just I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but it's more about um just learning how to interact with somebody. Some people are scared to have a conversation.
Right, yeah,
That
yeah,
was and when I was in the corporate world, one of the more people came to my office to get comfort or whatever advice. I don't know what, but when they had to go have a conversation with somebody that they didn't know, they were terrified.
mhm,
And I mean, the truth is everybody is afraid of something. And if you say you're not, you're lying. You know,
yeah,
everybody's afraid of something. And if you can't feel that or say you're not, then you're not really necessarily digging deep enough because we all are afraid of something. And the thing is a lot of times it's relational stuff.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that was with my work in education, most of my students, that was something we worked on a daily, weekly basis
Yeah.
is is having conversation, having eye contact, and,
Well,
I
listening
guess
to understand. Go ahead.
yeah, well, that's makes me think I have a question for you then is, like, so when you reflect on the last couple weeks, how have you felt connection and love from others, like, in regards to the little things? Like, what are some little things that have happened to you where you feel seen, you feel loved, you feel heard?
Yeah, I'm the kind of guy that wakes up in the morning, my mind's going, who's
Yeah.
popping up on the radar? Who needs encouragement? I'm not a saint. That's just how I'm wired. Who needs to be encouraged? Who needs to be motivated? And it's always I'm learning how to control that too because just because I think it doesn't mean I need to do it. But
Mhm.
it's like I woke up
Doesn't mean
this
it's your responsibility.
yeah, like when I was talking to my cousin Claire, not to embarrass her, but I was just talking about myself and going, I got lots of problems. I got issues. I'm jacked up. There's stuff wrong with me. And she went, yeah, but you are encouraging us. You are modeling things for us. And she just did this little, she's a poet too. Claire is
Yeah.
a true poet. And she just
Yes.
was very encouraging and kind. She's a gentle soul, kind
Mhm.
hearted. Um, and she just encouraged me that no, you're not as bad as you say you are. The other one was when this is so sweet. When I called this other young woman who I had coached in the past, and I call her a badass. I mean, she is. She's smart.
Mhm.
She's accomplished. But when I called her, she was in so much need of just a father and some advice, which I'm trying to not give. And I just said, you are important. You matter. Maybe you're in this situation because you're the one that can actually do something about it. I can't remember what I said. And she just blurted out, I love you.
Aw.
And it was like, okay, so what I did matter. And she just said, I needed to hear this.
Yeah.
And it wasn't weird and it wasn't sexual and it was none of that. It was just very relational. How many people are flying around every day in their lives feeling like they're going to crash and burn?
Mhm.
And if we would just be present and be looking outward instead of inward all the time, again, balance,
Right.
would we see that? So
Mhm.
that's the thing about being present in our relationships. Pay attention.
Well, so that makes me pause and say, well, I guess, and ask, what are the barriers then to doing that? We already talked about some. There's fear, there's anxiety,
Yeah,
there's actual physical space. The
right.
way that our society is set up is that we can literally go from the time we wake up till we go to bed and not interact with anybody. We can order all our food, everything that we need, all online, so there's actual physical, like, space that we can remain isolated. The What you just said, I feel like that stuck out to me was the over sexualization.
Oh,
The
yeah.
very fact that you had to say it wasn't sexual shows that we live in a world where by having connection with people, especially like the opposite sex, it's like we're so over sexualized that you can't even have pure
Yeah.
connection or say I love you or tell someone they're beautiful without it being
Well, let's
sexualized.
be honest. I'm a 69-year-old guy, and the person I was talking to was 34. Another young person that I was talking to was 20.
Mhm.
The integrity lies within me, not in within them. I'm not responsible for their behavior. I'm responsible for mine.
Well, and so how do you navigate that in this world where
By
I feel
not
like
doing it, we go, I couldn't help it. The devil made me do it. Bullshit. You can help it. You
yeah.
know, you can help undressing a woman or a man with your eyes. You can help that.
Mhm.
It's a lie. It's BS to say you can't help it. Can
Yeah.
you can tell I'm emotional about this because the question I would ask as a coach would be, if this was in the context of a coaching conversation, would be is what excuses are you making for not being and doing what you know to be and do?
Mm. Yeah. That's a tough thing because if someone okay, so what if that person can't see the excuses, you
Well,
know?
then, yeah. So that's being present in the conversation. And this is a riff off of that a little bit. Is somebody goes, I say, "How you doing, Hillary?" And you go, "I'm good." Really? What was that side just before? What was the thing underneath the thing right there that caused that body language and that somatic, is that the right word?
Yeah, like in your body.
Response to happen. If you're not paying attention, you just blow that off and go. My dad was a pastor, and he'd put it on autopilot and shake hands with everybody leaving, and they'd go, great job, pastor. Good sermon. Blah blah blah. And somebody would go, if you went by and said my dog died, my dad would go, great, good to hear it. See you next week. He was not present. He was doing what he was supposed to do, but he wasn't paying attention to what was actually going on in that interchange.
Well, just to kind of revert back to what we were saying in that, uh, you know, this coaching call that we're talking about. If
Yeah,
if a client is because I want to hit on the sexual stuff because I think that
yeah.
that's
Go ahead.
important. Is So you said, okay, what are the excuses that are coming up with for you to not to be able to do that? Like, one, I feel like maybe that's me being judgmental, but someone who is having issues with that, are you coach, are they even going to be wanting coaching?
Well,
Like,
that's what you ask. Because that's the thing about being a coach is just because you come and say, I want you to coach me doesn't mean I will. It has to do with ethics. If somebody needs therapy, I'm not going to coach them or do therapy with them because I'm not a therapist. But part of my coaching strategies have changed over the years, especially in the last 5. I don't buy the total coaching concept that you stay out of the way and let the client do everything and don't give them feedback or anything like that. I think feedback's very important. Hilary, you're saying all the right stuff. I'm listening to you. But when you tell me how you're acting, it's not aligning. Well, you
yeah,
probably, that's me. Something in my training, it would be, well, you're putting your map of the world on them. Maybe, but if you can't see it and you're asking me for help to coach you, why wouldn't I bring it up?
yeah,
I would
yeah,
be derelict in my job as a coach to not give you the feedback that you need.
yeah, yeah,
Does that make sense? It's like with sexuality. Well, a big one now in our world is if somebody tells you to stop, that's exactly what it means. Stop. Don't keep pushing. And don't keep being a self-serving person. I wanted to go way off there with my language,
I could
but it's like when
tell.
somebody tells you to stop doing something, you stop doing it. And don't make excuses that I can't help it, or they're just too beautiful, or they're just too whatever.
Well, because that's what's hard, I think, is that oftentimes, and we're gonna go off on here, but for me, that's hard because often it gets put on the woman. It's
It's
the
true.
woman's responsibility. It's the woman's fault. It's all the woman. And to me, I'm like, how come we live in a world where there has been no pushback that people literally men have gone their entire lives without learning how to control their thing, and no one has ever like challenged them, or like we that is the reality of our world right now. So
So
how do you
put Yeah,
pisses me off.
right. And so what you're saying is from your perspective, one is that is your opinion. And I'm asking rhetorical questions here. One is that if I was coaching, go, is it true that everybody in the world, every man in the world, so what you're telling me is every man in the world does not how to does not know how to control his thing. Is that what
No,
you're saying?
not every man, but enough that it's very obvious from anybody you ask. I'm gonna say that's an opinion, but I feel like for most people you ask, they're gonna see the
Well, we
imbalance.
think we're right too, right? We all think we're right.
Yeah,
But
I
see how
agree.
your statement went from a shotgun blast to how you reined that in and said and maybe in your experience, many men that you encounter do not know how to be true men. They're
Yeah.
thinking I mean, this won't be for children, but they're thinking with their penis. They can't keep it in their pants. And then when something happens, an interaction with somebody else, the other person gets the blame.
Yeah, and I think the anger lies, one, yes, in the specific men who are doing that, but two, that we live in a society that has perpetuated that and has allowed that to happen. Like, I don't understand why we have been able to go so long
Okay,
with that happening.
here's one that Rachel would love. So what?
Well, it pisses me off and I'm
Yeah,
angry
okay,
about it.
so but and
And I don't know. I don't know. I'm just saying that I'm freaking angry. It pisses me
yeah,
off. It's my
and
issues I have. Like the crux of my issues that I have with men
so
that
let's
I'm dealing with right now.
yeah,
It is one of my things
sure.
is my resentment towards men, is that I didn't realize how deep it is. And we're like going on way a whole
Yeah,
other
and so if you loop that back around to what we're talking about, if women and men could have the courage to have really honest conversations, I'm going to throw this out there. This will cause a maelstrom. If we did what Jesus said, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. But we don't we don't know what he said. We don't know the context in which he said it, and then we just do whatever the hell we want. We don't be and who do what Jesus said. Jesus said, "Love your neighbor as yourself." Well, we don't. We focus on the love your neighbor part, and we don't love ourselves, and we're selfish by nature. We live in a survival mode. Yes, I get it that there are exceptions to all that. Don't focus on that part. With you, where you're at in your life right now, you're having some real self confrontation and self reflection and self examination about how you feel about men.
Mhm.
That's awesome to me, Hilary. It's an important thing. And it all goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning is relationships.
Well, and yeah, and to kind of tie it all in, it's like I am realizing the little things. Again, it's the little jabs and the big things that have happened to me, specifically like in relationship with men, that build up and have caused this big monster that I haven't really dealt with. You
Yeah.
know, I
And we
mean,
all
stuff
have a
that
version of that.
right. And I mean, and I'm going back to, you and I have had to have some tough conversations. The stuff that you and I have had to are working through, you as
Yeah.
my dad, you as um a man, as like the role of like my father in this lifetime, like it's bringing up stuff that I didn't even know was in there,
Right.
so again, it's these little things that one either never dealt with or just shoved down, which I guess is the same thing of not
Maybe
dealing.
weren't even aware of possibly.
Right,
And there's no
right.
condemnation. In fact, Hillary, the fact that are having, you and anybody else, the fact that you're having awareness around this is massive.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
the whole thing of
it is.
of spiritual formation is we are what is it is we are unconsciously what is that I say all the time?
Unconsciously competent
Yeah, we're unconsciously incompetent.
income.
We aren't aware. We don't know what we don't know, and then all of a sudden you grow. I think you get older. You're getting into your mid 30s. You're in your mid 30s. I'm in my 60s. You start having awareness as we get older, but I also think as we walk in relationship with God the way he intended, he doesn't leave us like he found us.
Yeah,
You know, God will not, and this I sincerely believe this, God will not make you do anything.
yeah,
He loves us, he leans into us, but he will not force himself on you. I mean, hell would be having to be in the presence of God if you didn't want to be there. So sometimes that's just the best that you can do is if you don't want to, grow and learn in the terms of your spirituality, then God's not going to make you do that.
mhm,
But as I've watched you press in, God's lovingly bringing up things in your life that stand in the way of relationship. Here we go again with the word.
mhm.
Those little things that matter, like Hillary, you have an issue with men, certain men. Where'd that come from? You may have an issue with your dad. You and I've
Mhm.
talked about this. Your feelings of, some of the ways that mom and I raised you have come back up in this time frame too, of me having to ask you to forgive me
Mhm.
for some of the things that I said or did.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, and I think there's a level of, for me, it's seeing, and this is again part of the spiral. I feel like I'm hitting on a lot of these life issues that they're just deeper. I'm going deeper
Mhm.
into them, and I'm seeing how I have manipulated things in my life so I could focus on the things I wanted to focus, not on the things I didn't want to focus on. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Like
it's
this
human
whole thing.
nature.
Right. And so it's also for me, it's taking responsibility. And I think we can say this is like you know, it can be a balm to these all of what we're talking about is to
BALM,
yeah, be it yeah, to
balm,
have yeah, balm, not a bomb.
mhm,
Um, but
or a bong.
take that and smoke put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Yeah, so sorry I
But
interrupted you, go.
no, just like just acknowledging my part in all of this, my responsibility, like that is a huge humbling, almost like oddly to it, like it relieves a lot of things when I acknowledge my part in it, and that not blaming it and saying it's all my fault or this, but to see like my own role in all of this, and where okay, I now have a decision to make. I can, you know, focus and go into this and grow and learn from this, or not, and continue shoving it
Right,
down and continue disregarding it. But I've got to acknowledge my own role in this and take responsibility, because it is something I don't want to keep perpetuating this cycle of men versus women.
mhm.
I see it everywhere. I see it literally everywhere, all over, any kind of social media, in conversations, in marriages. It's like there's this pit of like men versus women, and it I don't want to be a part of perpetuating that
Okay,
cycle.
so then how will you not be a part of it?
Well, by what I'm doing now is by really looking into and sitting with the areas where I do perpetuate it, where I
Right.
have, again, it's like
And Hillary, let me
it's the little things. It's
yeah.
we're taking a whole other spin now on the little things, but this is in regards to healing now. But
Well, it's all
it's
little things.
yeah, little things that have built up and built up and built up. So
And you and I are not saying, I'm not telling you that when a man or anyone else, a man or a woman, for example, let's go to this one, makes sexual advances to you, that you're just supposed to do the Jesus thing, which isn't true anyway, and just take it.
right,
What if the most spiritual thing, or not even spiritual, but the right thing to do is to stand your ground and say no?
yeah, yeah,
Like this friend of mine, that her boss was, coming up behind her and rubbing on her back. There's, it's like I was flabbergasted that somehow she thought she was just supposed to let that slide. You don't let that slide.
yeah,
Jesus wouldn't let it slide. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Um, and so it's those little things, like, what if the most powerful thing you did is turn them in and lose your job for some weird reason?
yeah,
And it's like, when I'm coaching somebody, I would say, okay, so in this situation, what do you control? And the answer is always different. Most of the time, though, included in what you control is yourself.
right,
And how is that going to play out? It might be
mhm.
being quiet. It might be, and we're talking about the sexual thing, because that one right there grabs everybody's attention, and there's a lot of emotion around it. But
Well, I don't
it's
think that's why we're talking about it. I just think that
no. I'm just
it grabs our attention, and it
I'm
grabs
just
my
saying, yeah.
attention.
I'm just saying that's a big one. But there are little things, like you said, you're learning boundaries. Like, this is my room, and I would appreciate it if you would ask me before you come in here. Or
Yeah,
one with Jordan is don't rearrange my computer.
mhm,
Here, Joe, let me fix your computer. I'm going to move all these files and rearrange it,
yeah.
when he didn't ask me to do it.
Well, and
Uh,
I think a lot of this too is like it's learning for everyone to how do we use our voices. I mean, that was a big one for me in my life, is not feeling like I had a voice, and so speaking up. And I you aren't just made to be seen, you're made to be heard too. And I think as women, that comes up, and is that particularly like,
so
oh,
yes,
we're made to be seen, not to be heard. And so what is it things starts when I started using my voice, and that's still something I struggle with, but I saw an immediate shift in the environment. Things started shaking up more
In
because
whose environment?
in my environment, when I
Right.
started using my voice, it wasn't well received for a lot of people either. Because it's like, "Oh, wait, now Hillary has an opinion and has something to say." Like, usually she's just,
That's
super laid
happening with your
back and
mom too.
yeah. But how do
So
we
relate that, but wait, Hillary, relate that back to the little things and relationships. What you just said about finding your voice, how does that play out? Or is it playing out in the relationships that you're building now?
Yeah,
Well,
because
how?
I'm learning how to, one, have conversations that are authentic, where I'm speaking, like, I guess I have to discern, when to say things and not to say things. Because I can also go on to the other. I sometimes tend to go to the complete other end of the spectrum, and I just word vomit everything and share everything all the time. And it's like, wait a second. I feel like God and I are like, He's like, you don't always have to share every little detail about everything. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
you and I deal with that with each other.
yeah, yeah. And so I think it's neat to be practicing that and having people in my life who are also practicing that and walking on those paths together, where we can authentically say, like, out of, from a place of love, this is what I need, or this is how I'm feeling. And just, again, the person doesn't have to fix it. They don't have to say anything about it.
That's active listening.
It's just being able to say it,
Yeah.
and so,
Yeah.
and then I think that that's where, to me, it hits on authenticity, if back to our whole conversation of the little things, it's like, when we're able to say the little things, no matter what they are, if, for me, it's like, I sometimes don't say things because I know it's gonna hurt the other person, and I don't like hurting people's feelings. I can feel their feelings, and it's hard to feel that, so I use that as a scapegoat to be like, "Oh, well, then I'll just, like, deal with it myself."
Or when do you deploy that or use that? Sometimes we spill our guts to make ourselves feel better, but it doesn't really help the other person grow or feel better or whatever. So you still have to have discernment about what to say and when to say it and how much to say or whatever. It's like um,
Yeah.
just relieving your own guilt or your own internal struggle doesn't necessarily mean that you should go do that. One of the things in a book by Paul Zoll called, I think it's Peace in the Third Phase of Life, he says, and I've said this before, but learn how to be a good listener. You and I are actively doing that with each other. It's a struggle for me because I really think I know a lot and I know that I don't. But learning how to be a true active listener and find somebody that will truly actively listen to you. Search for that, look for that.
Well, do you feel like because that's something you say, like, you're always looking for people to encourage you, you're always looking to encourage other people and validate other people. Do you feel like you are able to get that yourself? Like, how do you receive that, or how do you get that?
Yeah, I'm part of a that's a good question. Y I'm that's growing. Me learning this and sharing it with my friends is honestly, a lot of us are in this place. Some people that are really good at listening to me are John Grafe, are Mark Jordan, John Huffman. You're good at it. Mom's good at it. Jordan's good at it. I mean, um,
Well, I mean, but for you, like, are you saying directly with you,
they
or
they
what?
are they when I talk, they are good listeners,
Mhm.
and I'm an external processor, so I'm talk a lot, and I've felt like I've had to apologize for that for my whole life. So, because most people don't want to hear everything you have to say, and my friends even joke about how much I talk. But those people I mentioned are really good at listening without making judgment.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, so we talked about, I mean, we kind of went all over, but we talked about some of the barriers of um
the biggest
just
barrier?
we said the barriers of incorporating being intentional about the little things. So like fear, anxiety, all that stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think are things that help create a space? Like how do we create a space in an environment where we like just thinking of our family for instance, like we're having regular family meetings, we're uh sharing ideas and our dreams and talking about buying land together. That's been something we've been talking about for what, over
Couple of years.
3-4 years now. But how have we created this space, and how do we create this space where we acknowledge and recognize that the little things are important?
Well, we've done it. I mean, some of the things I learned in the past 5 years. One was there are a lot of different there's different personalities. If you want to see about this, you can look at a place called the Five Voices.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But
You had us go through all that.
yeah, and basically what we discovered is Hillary and I could dominate the entire family conversation. It's not because we're malicious. It's just our nature. And then you've got Haley. Hillary and I are connectors. Haley, in this lingo won't mean much. Maybe we can talk about it another time. But Haley is a guardian. She's very detail oriented, jot and tittle. She'd make a good CPA, maybe. And
Yeah.
then we've got Mom and KK who are creatives. And then we've got Jordan who is a nurturer. And if we did not, have intentionally, when we have our family meetings, Jordan goes first. That's a big change because usually it's Hillary and me right out of the gates, blowing and
Yeah.
going,
Yeah.
and nobody has to get a word in edgewise. And so with intentionality, we've gone when we start our meetings, usually going to be Jordan, and then Matt, and then probably Haley or KK and Mom, and then you and me.
Yeah.
So
So
everybody gets heard and then everybody feels like they've been listened to.
yeah. So intentionality. I think for me, creating a space where we're being intentional and all that stuff is intentionally creating a space where there's room for mystery, and there's room for spontaneity, and there's what?
Show up with a sheet over your head. Who is it in here? Guess. Mystery.
uh no,
Oh,
that
that's a good point.
this quote that has stuck with me. I just finished Screw Tape Letters, and it's
C.S. Lewis.
C.S. Lewis. Yeah, Screw Tape Letters. So good. I feel like I want to do a class with other people in it because there's so much I don't understand about every about the concepts.
So what was the
Anyways,
quote?
the quote is that the present moment touches eternity, something like that. Like when you're in the present, you're literally touching like a different realm.
That's the gladiator quote. Same thing. What we do in this life echoes in eternity.
Uh Gladiator. So
Yeah.
good.
So your quote again is what?
It's not verbatim, but it's that the present moment touches eternity. And so we have these opportunities when we're in the present moment, you know, when you're just going down the street and you can literally just make eye contact with someone, or you can smile
They
at
call the
them.
police on you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you have to be careful with
You're
that.
arrested immediately.
Uh, but yeah, I think that's something that I value like in my life is that's I don't I don't think like there's any place that like how do I word that? Um I value the present moment. So I don't think there's any boundary or line drawn where places aren't sacred and special. And it's like, it sounds silly, but like, I that's why one reason I really like grocery shopping is not just like looking at all the food and stuff, but it's like the one-off connections and funny things that happen.
Around peanut butter.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, just little stuff like that, like being present to opening your eyes to the world around you instead of this. Like, I think about what that might look like in the spiritual realm when you see a bunch of human beings on their phones, what that does.
It's actually kind of offensive to me. When I was in an HR role, we were interviewing people for these really good jobs. And someone came in, and while we were interviewing them, they were on their phone.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going, I have a question. What are
Oh,
you thinking?
man,
It's like,
that's
are
sad.
you that addicted that you cannot drag yourself away from that thing for 20 minutes,
Well,
especially
sadly,
in an interview
sadly.
where you're trying to make some money? I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's kind of harsh, but we do it and we don't even think about it.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
that's where it's like, I've challenged myself again. I said this before, but it's like, leave your phone in the car or don't even bring it, you know?
yeah,
Don't even bring
I've
it.
been doing that.
And it's been so nice again to have when I'm not on that. And I think I'm pretty aware, so I try not to be on my phone like when I'm out to eat with people or anything like that or whatever. But I can easily go and just stay in my lane. And sometimes some days I have to have that. Some days I don't want to interact and I'm just getting my stuff. But when you allow yourself to be in the present moment, it can make all the difference. It can literally like save someone's life. I heard a story about a guy who was going to jump off um, the bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge, and he left a note and said, "If just one person smiles at me on the way to this, I won't jump." And he had to walk like several miles, several miles, and no one smiled at him,
Mhm.
not one person. And to think like that could be somebody's rationale. I mean, it's maybe not that extreme all the time, but that actually, again, like I've had days where I've just been, you know, in rough places and having like not even a word spoken from a stranger, but just a look or a glance or a friendly gesture. It's like can literally like it has lifted my spirits. And
Yeah, well, yeah.
I wouldn't expect it. I wasn't looking for that. It just happened. And again, it was because that person was paying attention and so was I.
For me, it's just care. One place you feel like you ought to be able to get that is at church, and church is one of the most unfriendly places around.
Mhm.
Often, it's not always true. I mean, I'm thinking of a couple of churches that are actually really good at being friendly, but it's intentional.
Right.
I've been in churches where the pastor won't even look at you.
Well, that happened with, Mike. Mike was telling me that story. He's a motorcycle guy, and this was, like, when he was younger, like, in his 20s or 30s, but he was traveling through, like, several hundred miles and had stopped at this church because, 1, he was tired, he needed to rest, whatever. And maybe he was somewhere going through Texas, I can't remember, but he sat in there and was, like, all of in his motorcycle gear, and people were staring at him, and then a couple guys came up to him and said, your kind is not welcome here, and they literally picked him up and threw him out of the church.
Wow.
And it's just like that breaks my heart because whether that happens like actually like that or even just metaphorically, like that is how a lot of people feel when they go to church. I think of people who, if you don't look a certain way, like there's churches that are nicer where you don't go if you know, look a
Yeah,
certain
yeah.
way or, like
It's so us based instead of God based. But back to the relationship stuff. It's just, an easy way to do it is have people over for dinner. I mean, mom is one of the most hospitable people I know.
yeah.
We have people over all the time. She's even learning boundaries about that. But when she spots somebody that needs interaction with humans, mom's really good at
Yeah.
inviting them back.
So what would you say are some of your biggest takeaways just from this talk?
Pay attention. I mean, I've said that before, but is it's the little things that make the difference and make it a big thing. So I'm taking away what are little things that I can do on a day-to-day basis from the center of the ripple, which would be me and my relationship with God out. So to my family, to my friends, to those around me. What are the little I will ask myself, what are little things that I can do?
Mhm.
Don't worry about those big things right now. Nobody's asking you to go to some foreign country and save it. Appreciate the kid that bags your groceries, say thank you, uh,
Right.
things like that. So
Yeah.
for me, it's the takeaway is pay it. How do I pay attention to the little things that matter?
Yeah.
How about you?
I think just the presence piece. When you're present, you're entering into a different realm, and there's so much beauty. There's just so much beauty in that. And so I think too, looking at the chaos and where everybody is, it's like we can still be more gentle with each other. There's always room for more kindness. There's always room for more laughter, more joy, and even amidst the chaos, and even like amidst the turmoil, and just where we're at, like it's a really scary, wild time right now, and a lot of people are on edge, and I think that one of the greatest weapons is kindness. I really do. I think that's a
Mm,
weapon, like, and we can use that, and we can, um, not stand with the chaos and not stand with the hatred, and, um, yeah, I just think that that's important. So I would say it's the present piece for me that I wanna keep carrying into
yeah,
the days.
good. Good. Okay, hon. Good
Well,
conversation.
yeah, yeah. Love y'all. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here, and, um, go out there and keep shining the light, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.